My baby girl is turning 7 this week. She's been raised trilingual in Russian, Chinese and English since birth in 2018. Despite the many challenges we've had, it's honestly been the most rewarding journey. And we've learned so much along the way, with many surprises and unexpected twists and turns. In this video, I want to share 5 surprising lessons we've learned along the way, along with some actionable advice and tips that you can implement in your family's life if you are on a similar journey. If you are raising a bilingual or trilingual child right now, I think you will absolutely love this video and gain real value from it, hearing from someone who's been doing this for 7 years and counting. Well, actually 8.5 years, as we have a son as well. So keep watching, and by the end of this video, I promise you walk away, or rather scroll away, with some new insights. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. If you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Kayi, nice to meet you, and I'm a UK-based mum, professional translator, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Linguists. My husband and I have been raising our children to be trilingual in Russian, Chinese and English since 2016 when our first child was born. Almost a decade ago. Whoa! Last September, I did a video celebrating my son's 8th birthday where I shared some lessons and insights. You guys loved that video, so I thought I would do a similar but different video this time for my daughter's 7th birthday because, seriously, my experiences with my 2 children have been very different. So whether you've been raising a bilingual or trilingual kid for a while, or whether you're new to this journey, I think you'll find this video really helpful. I am distilling 7 years of experience and insights into this 15-20 minute video to help other parents have an easier and more rewarding journey raising a little polyglot and maybe avoid some of the mistakes we made. So without further ado, let's dive in. Lesson 1. Before we get into lesson number 1, let me ask you a quick question. Do you have siblings? Are you and your siblings very similar or very different? Or do you have friends who are so different from their siblings that you wonder if they are actually related? Yep, I have certainly met people like that. Even my sister and I, we are quite different people. This brings me to lesson number 1, which was a huge surprise to us. Every child is different, even if they are born to the same parents. I mean, maybe this is nothing profound, right? Of course, 2 siblings can be really different, both generally speaking and in terms of their language development. Even though siblings share 50% of their DNA, from what I know, and broadly speaking the same environment, that still leaves 50% of DNA that's different, plus their interactions with their parents, etc. and etc. These things would never be identical, right? Still, it caught me by surprise how differently my 2 children developed in terms of their trilingual ability. If you've watched my other videos, you know that we kind of struggled with our first child. While he understood all 3 languages by age 3, he would only reply to us in English. If you're interested in the full story and how we helped him become actively trilingual over the course of 3 months, check out this video, link down below. My son and my daughter are 19 months apart, so the gap is pretty small. We were expecting similar challenges with our daughter, but then actually, she surprised us by becoming trilingual pretty much effortlessly. As in, from the very early days, she would use words in all 3 languages, and when she began saying longer sentences, she would, for the most part, speak to me in Chinese and speak to Dad in Russian, although of course she did mix the languages. More on that later. As a result, we never had to deliberately train her the same way we did with our son. Phew, such a relief. I honestly don't know what accounts for these differences. I guess it's a combination of factors, right? Like natural aptitude, gender, having an older sibling, etc, etc. We were also a bit more experienced with the whole trilingual thing by the time she was born, so that probably played a role as well. Interestingly, I've seen how this can be reversed in other families, right? In our kids' school, for example, there's a family who are raising their 2 girls to speak Chinese and Polish at home. They have a Chinese dad and a Polish mom. In addition to speaking English in the wider world, we live in the UK. The eldest is fully trilingual, so I assumed that her little sister, who is maybe 4 years younger, would be the same. But then the other day, I bumped into the dad and the younger daughter in the park, and I started speaking to her in Chinese. The dad told me a little apologetically that his youngest daughter doesn't speak Chinese. I was really surprised and I was like, oh, how come? Her older sister speaks Chinese really well. The dad, who is Chinese, explained to me that somehow life got much busier with 2 children and he wasn't spending as much time with the little sister as he did with the older sister. He also said that during COVID, with everyone working from home and all that stuff, he just managed to invest a lot more time speaking to the eldest in Chinese and even teaching her to read and write. So my point is that every child's linguistic journey will be different, even within the same family. So if you're raising more than one child to be bilingual or trilingual at home, don't be surprised if they turn out to develop in very different ways and at different paces. Let's respect our kids as individuals and let them grow at their own pace and avoid comparison. And I have to remind myself of that. Even now, my daughter is perhaps a little bit better at remembering Chinese vocabulary that we read and write together. And sometimes I find myself almost blurting out to my son, saying things like, oh, your sister knows this already, come on. And then I catch myself, no, stop it. I really have to remind myself never to say things like that. Note to self, never compare your child to others, even when the other child is also your own child. Lesson 2. Before we dive into lesson 2, let's play a quick game. I'll say a sentence and you have to count the number of languages used. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello, 我叫卡爾，也是住 in London. 我想 Radna 識到你. Oh my god. How many languages can you spot in that sentence? Correct answer, 4. Hello, English. 我叫 Mandarin, meaning my name is. 卡爾, my name pronounced in English. In London, English. 我想 Radna, Russian, meaning very pleased. 識到你, Cantonese, meaning to meet you. This is code mixing in action, which is just another fancy way of saying mixing languages. And this was how my daughter actually spoke sometimes when she was a toddler. Even to this day, we often joke about our all-time favorite example of language mixing that my daughter actually said when she was a toddler. 哥哥 boom ya. Confused? Let me decode that for you. 哥哥 means older brother in Chinese, Mandarin. Boom is just a word she sort of made up, meaning to bump into or something like that, like boom. Well, at least that's what we think. Ya means I in Russian, but in this sentence, it's the object, so it should really be меня, which means me. Speaking of which, another funny story. For the longest time, my son thought his name was T, which means you in Russian, because that's how we referred to him. Between age 1 and 2, if you had asked him in English, oh, what's your name? He would have told you, T. Once this happened in a playground, and the other parent actually thought that was his name until I explained it to him. Story over. So the second lesson I've learned on this 7-year journey is that language mixing is actually completely normal. It's a sign of creative problem solving. How? Well, when my daughter said 哥哥 boom ya, she was trying to convey a message in her head using a combination of words that she had immediate access to. Granted, my husband and I, and maybe our son, were likely the only people who could understand that particular sentence, but still, she got her point across to the people who mattered at that moment. So my takeaway is this: if you're raising a bilingual or trilingual child and they mix languages, don't stress out. It's really normal and it's generally something that they grow out of or substantially decrease as their vocabulary in each of the target languages grows. Meanwhile, enjoy this cute phase where they invent their own words and mix their languages with crazy creativity. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like and subscribe button. I have tons more videos on this channel for parents like you, and you'll be helping me out too. Also, I hope to reach 1,000 subscribers before the 2nd birthday of my channel at the end of May. And when that day comes, I will take my children to our local dessert parlor and gorge ourselves on chocolate waffles and ice cream.
Please subscribe!
Also, if you are new to multilingual parenting, definitely check out my free resources, including a family language plan template and a 48-page ebook, plus my completely free mini course that will help you get started and help you create a custom-made plan for your family. Links down below. Lesson 3. Now let's move on to lesson 3. Before we dive in, I would like you to imagine a scenario. Imagine you are 10 years old again, hanging out with your best friend at school, having the best time chatting about random stuff just as kids do. And then out of nowhere, a stern-looking teacher with glasses comes into the room and shouts a command. Hey, you two, why are you chatting in the wrong language? You need to start talking to each other in Latin. That would be a rather odd request, right? This little thought experiment brings us to lesson number 3. My children talk to each other in English, and I am fine with that. If you're new here, let me give you a quick background. In our household, we broadly adopt the one parent, one language approach, whereby I speak to the kids in Mandarin Chinese, my husband speaks to them in Russian, and we rely on the community for English, for the most part. The truth is, of course, English is our kids' strongest language and therefore their preferred language. When they were little, they sometimes spoke to each other in Chinese actually, but they now exclusively speak to each other in English. And honestly, I have no problem with that. Remember that thought experiment earlier? I believe that my children are best friends and I have no right to dictate which language they should use when they are with each other. Also, because we have Chinese and Russian at home, which one would we make them use between themselves anyway? So to me, it's totally okay for them to speak to each other in English. However, having said that, my husband and I are quite firm in insisting that they switch to Chinese or Russian when speaking to us directly. And for the most part, this works well for us. So my takeaway for other parents is this. If you're raising more than one bilingual or trilingual kids to speak one or two minority languages at home, don't stress out if your children decide to use the majority language or community language among themselves. This will not affect their ability to speak the target languages if you do your part right, i.e. being consistent when it comes to speaking to your child in the target language most of the time, setting expectations for your child to use the target language when talking to you and or your partner, etc. Basically applying the equation of exposure times need consistently. If you want to find out more about this equation, check out this video where I explain what this equation is and how to apply it in real life, link down below. Okay, now let's move on to lesson 4. Let's go back to early 2020, before the world went into shutdown thanks to COVID. My daughter was about 20 months old around this time and was about to start nursery part-time. And it's hard to believe now, but back then, my main concern was that she would not understand English at nursery. That's because at that stage in her life, she only communicated with me in Chinese, and I genuinely had no idea how much English she understood or could speak. So before she started nursery, I taught her some essential English phrases so that she could ask for things like water, food and stuff at nursery if needed. And to my surprise, she adapted to nursery really quickly and her English picked up in no time at all. Fast forward 5-6 years, English is now her strongest language without a doubt. So this brings me to lesson number 4. Do not worry too much about your child not being able to pick up the community language when they start nursery or school. Trust me, they will manage. I've met so many families who had similar concerns when their children started nursery or school. And without exception, the children became fluent in English in a matter of months, a year or two later. These children's fluency in English and even their accent was more or less indistinguishable from that of a monolingual English-speaking child. And this isn't just anecdotal. Research supports these observations. For instance, a study by the Harvard Graduate School of Education found that with proper support, children who speak English as a second language can learn to read English as well as or even better than their English-speaking peers. So if you're worried that your child might struggle with English at school, rest assured that with the right support and environment, they are likely to become fluent quite rapidly. Of course, as parents, it's 100% normal to worry about your child not being able to assimilate into school or perform well academically. I get it. I was also worried about how my daughter would adapt, which is why I did make an effort to teach her some basic English phrases. If you are in a similar situation, you can definitely do the same as an insurance policy. In fact, I think it's actually a good idea. It's just better for your child and for the nursery or school staff as well. However, I really think that the minority language or home language is in most cases the one you need to quote unquote worry about, as it's so prone to language loss and attrition. Trust me, once your child starts full-time education, it definitely becomes harder to maintain fluency in the target language. In fact, this is when lots of parents find themselves slipping into using the community language at home more and more in response to their kids' changing speech habits. And the slippery slope effect can kick in, and that's how some families eventually give up the whole bilingual and trilingual thing. I've made a series of videos about handling language loss when your child starts school. Check it out, link down below. So, while the community language is definitely extremely important, I would urge you not to stress out about your child not being able to speak it. They will pick it up, I promise. Big caveat, if your child has a learning difficulty or any kind of speech delay or disorder, you have to seek the advice of an actual speech therapist, of course. The advice I give here is just for general purposes, but I think will apply to a lot of families, most families in fact, based on my own experience and observation. Okay, now let's move on to the final lesson I want to share today. And this is all about the importance of finding joy in the language learning process in a way that's unique to your child. As I alluded to earlier, my two children are so different in many ways. My daughter is very creative and artistic. She can draw and paint for absolutely ages and not get bored. You know the studio where right now I'm filming this video. See those pictures on the wall? These are all masterpieces created by my children, mostly my daughter. And over the years, I've realized that we can lean into our children's natural aptitude and preferences, even in the process of language learning. In practical terms, this means incorporating drawing and imaginative storytelling. When my daughter and I read and write Chinese together, it means not getting frustrated when she starts drawing pictures in her notebook, thinking that she's getting distracted, but leaning into that, allowing her some time and space to explore the Chinese words visually through drawing and visual storytelling. It just makes the whole process so much more joyful and fulfilling and less frustrating for both myself and my daughter. If you want to find out more about the exact method, oh, my eye is twitching. If you want to find out more about the exact method I use to teach my kids how to read and write Chinese at home without paying for tutors or fancy apps, watch this video right here. Okay guys, so here are 5 surprising and valuable lessons I've learned while raising my daughter to be trilingual 7 years and counting. Why not check out a similar video I made for my son's 8th birthday last year, where I share 5 things I wish I had known when we began our journey in 2016.